Exceptionally desperate times call for exceptionally desperate measures. Hi, my name is Howard Breen. I'm a 68-year-old grandfather about to begin an open-ended hunger strike opposing the BC government that by liquidating our forest carbon sinks is ultimately undertaking the destruction of our children and grandchildren's future. I join arm in arm with my Save Old Growth colleagues in an indefinite hunger strike, an evidence-based group intervention against those who think they were elected to somehow justify the unjustifiable. The fact that we have to resort to starving ourselves in order to be heard by our government breaks my heart. But at this point, we have no other option. The tragedy is that few people seem to understand that deforestation is at the root of the climate emergency in British Columbia. Old growth deforestation is an utterly deplorable, predatory practice taking full advantage of the gap in binding climate, forest carbon sequestration, and endangered species legislation here in BC. It is truly scandalous and a betrayal by a government that has repeatedly pledged to do otherwise. There's no time for complacency, pleads my dear friend, Dr. Peter Carter, founder of the Climate Emergency Institute. We are defending not only our own human dignity, but the dignity and lives of all humanity. We must help in every way we can. Our ancient forests' free-falling decline and carbon-emitting clear-cut numbers speak for themselves. If the forest biodiversity is rich, then so is the province. If the forest carbon sinks are resilient, then so is the planet. It's time to ask, what would the criminal justice system look like if our government stopped prosecuting climate activists and began prosecuting those who are destroying the planet's life support systems? Where is the real justice in the mounting numbers of Fairy Creek and Save Old Growth criminal cases? If we don't commit to a long-term binding climate emergency plan that protects our forest carbon sinks, then unfortunately, this will be our conversation. Sadly, a world-ending one. Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. The Horgan government has continually dismissed the many Indigenous and settler land defender cries for urgent action, and we cannot continue to be silenced, knowing that our tax dollars are contributing to the senseless destruction of life on Earth. Probably not unlike you, I'm deeply afraid for the future, and our pleas have thus far been ignored. We hope our hunger for change helps foster a shift in political action that leads to an end of corporate old growth logging demand and destruction. We will be putting our health on the line and staging daily protests outside the legislature, MLA offices, the Ministry of Forests and Environment in the BC capital as part of our Save Old Growth campaign until our legitimate demands are met. We hope the Minister of Forests will meet with us to discuss what we are doing and what more she could urgently do. Otherwise, we will not reconsider our hunger strike, which is, of course, like old growth deforestation, not presently of significant concern to anyone in government. I stress that the strike will continue and will not stop until our old growth carbon sinks are liberated from the Horgan chainsaw, wood pellet chipper, and raw log export ship. If promoting an urgent climate emergency response is the hill I'm going to die on, I will sleep well tonight. I won't be a bystander allowing this government to continue to criminalize our land defenders. I won't allow their prosecutors to tarnish what we've done in the many years we've been first responder, climate busters in this global war for the survival of future generations. We would rather fail in a cause that would ultimately succeed than succeed in a cause that would ultimately fail. When we haven't eaten anything solid in weeks and our vision is blurred, our heart rates are elevated, our blood glucose levels becoming potentially deadly, and we can't barely sit up, much less stand, we will desperately need you to help amplify our strike. People need to see the climate emergency in the light that stands up to the truth. Truth is like the sun. You cannot shut it out. And it ain't going to go away. As Shakespeare writes in The Tempest, what's past is prologue. It is important to remember that our deforestation history sets the tone for the present. And what we do now shapes our and your children's future fate. Perhaps the greatest reason for this strike going forward lies in the difference of underlying motives between the government and land defenders, which is also one of the fundamental causes of climate inaction. We couldn't get their attention with our arguments, but we certainly will with our actions. That is why there is no obvious end to our disruptive escalations and the Horgan government's counter escalations. We must let our politicians know that no matter how hard they try, they cannot suppress our climate activism or silence our voices. We will not stand idly by as our rights, our ancient giants, our children's lives are stripped from us. I really want to feel that our sacrifice will not be in vain and that government will open their eyes. That our hunger for change is your hunger too. Yet one small step in our hard-fought, high-risk, high-reward world for human survival. For our children, for the ancient trees, be brave, be nonviolent, be a rebel for life. Please support the Save Old Growth hunger strike. Thank you.